They said the market would set us free. What they didn't mention is that freedom came with a price tag, and billionaires were the only ones who could afford it. The system we live in today, one where a handful of people can buy influence, bend laws, and outspend entire nations, wasn't an accident. It was built not in Silicon Valley or on Wall Street, but in the offices of two politicians who promised to save the world from chaos, Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. To understand how they created this billionaire world order, you have to go back to the late 1970s, an era of economic panic. Britain was called the sick man of Europe. Inflation hit 25%. Labor unions could shut down entire industries overnight. In America, oil prices quadrupled, interest rates shot above 20%, and the word stagflation haunted every policymaker. The old way of doing things, where governments spent freely and managed the economy, was collapsing. The public wanted order. Markets wanted liberation. That's when two leaders, thousands of miles apart, found the same answer. Free market fundamentalism. They read Milton Friedman, the Chicago school economist, who believed government was the virus and markets were the cure. His logic was simple. Let prices float and competition run wild, and the market would fix itself. The invisible hand would guide everything. Sounds elegant, right? Except it was a fantasy. When Thatcher took power in 1979, she didn't just trim spending, she detonated the British economy. Her first budget slashed public investment and raised interest rates, triggering a brutal recession. Unemployment doubled, but to her, that wasn't failure, that was purification. Meanwhile, in Washington, Reagan was selling the same medicine with a Hollywood smile. In 1981, he dropped the top income tax rate from 70% to 50%. By 1986, it was down to 28%. He said wealth would trickle down. It didn't. It flooded upward. The richest 1% saw their share of national income nearly double in less than a decade. The middle class began shrinking quietly and permanently. Both leaders declared war on labor. When British coal miners went on strike, Thatcher crushed them. She stockpiled coal, deployed thousands of police, and broke the union after a year-long standoff. In the U.S., Reagan fired 11,000 striking air traffic controllers overnight. The message to every worker was clear. You can be replaced. Tei kadeti. Modernization. Economists called it flexibility. But it was really a massive transfer of power. Before Thatcher and Reagan, labor could bargain with capital. After them, capital dictated the terms. They also believed the private sector could do everything better. So Thatcher started selling Britain off piece by piece. British Telecom, British Gas, British Airways, all privatized. She even sold off public housing. Millions bought their homes, a short-term success. But decades later, those same homes became the core of a landlord economy. Fueling a housing crisis Britain still hasn't escaped. Reagan deregulated airlines, trucking, and finance. He said they were liberating the market. In reality, they were deregulating consequences. The financial sector took notice. London's Big Bang in 1986 turned the city into a global casino. On Wall Street, junk bonds and corporate rating became a business model. This was the new economy. Fast money, low taxes, and no accountability. But they weren't just changing economies. They were changing minds. Thatcher famously said, "Economics are the method. The object is to change the soul." She wanted a new kind of citizen, competitive, self-reliant, and obedient to the market. Reagan sold the same creed with a grin. Government is not the solution, he said. Government is the problem. And people believed him. The irony is, both leaders used massive state power to enforce their so-called free market. They broke unions with police and imposed monetary shock therapy from above. They didn't free markets from politics. They made markets to politics. It was a bloodless coup, engineered to shift wealth from labor to capital and protect that capital from ever being challenged again. The proof, in 1980, there were fewer than 50 billionaires. Today, there are over 2,600. Their combined wealth exceeds $14 trillion. The United States became the ultimate proof of concept. Every other rich nation built safety nets. America built payment plans. In Canada or the UK, cancer treatment is free at the point of care. In America, you get a bill. In Denmark, unemployment benefits can replace up to 90% of your income for 2 years. In America, it's about 40% for 6 months. University in Germany costs less than a laptop. In America, it costs the price of a small house. Medical debt replaced healthcare. Student loans replaced affordable education. Credit cards replaced living wages. That's the hidden cost of the Reagan-Thatcher world. Insecurity sold as liberty. They told people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, then outsourced the boot factory. Today, the logic of the 1980s still runs everything. Cut taxes, deregulate, privatize. It's the same script with new buzzwords. Innovation, disruption, efficiency. Different packaging, same scam. Because the game hasn't changed. Only the scale has. The richest men alive can move markets with a tweet. They don't need to overthrow governments. They just need to outspend them. The map of power isn't drawn by borders anymore. It's drawn by balance sheets. That's the world they built. A world where freedom is a commodity, inequality is normal, and billionaires are untouchable. They promised to make the state smaller, but what they really made smaller was your share of the future. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look. Thanks for watching.